Hi everybody, welcome back to the Manifold channel. Today we're going to look at how to create portable north arrows. Portable north arrows, a north arrow that's easy to move about, that we can copy and paste and use in multiple different drawings and maps and so forth. And we're going to build on the prior video that we just did, which is all about rotated views. If you recall, in that prior video we created this map of Italy, and we added a north arrow to it, because when you're going to rotate a view, you want to see which way north is pointing, regardless of which way the view is rotated to. And if you remember, we created that north arrow in two pieces. We created a line object, which is this bit right here, which we styled to have an arrowhead at the one end. And then we created that's it right here. And then we created a label object, which was based on a point that we manually added to the bottom of the line. That's a kind of a clumsy way of creating a north arrow. And if we open the north arrow table, we see what's going on here. But here's the line, which we styled to have the arrowhead, and here's the point from which we created the label using this text N. Since there's only one object that has a text N, there's only one N label that's in the resulting display. But if we want to move this to a different location, we have to move both objects at the same time, the line and the point at the end of it. And to do that, we have to use transform shift, which is okay, that's easy enough, but it's not as cool as just being able to click this thing and moving it around with the mouse. So what we're now going to do is we're going to do this in a more elegant way. And we're going to take advantage of Manifold's ability to put multiple geometry fields within the same record, and to create multiple drawings from that. And what we're using here is Manifold Viewer. Manifold Viewer, as you probably know, is the free read-only version of Manifold System Release 9. It is read-only, but other than that, it does pretty much everything else that Release 9 does. So you can do fantastic work with it, and we're demonstrating it by using a Manifold Viewer right now. Okay, let's add another field here, which is another geometry field, and we're going to do that as a computed field using this expression here. I'm going to Control C to copy that, and I love copying and pasting instead of doing all this stuff manually. Let's click Edit Schema, and here let's add that new field. We're going to call that new field Geom Begin, and that's going to be of type Geom. That's a geometry field, and it's going to be computed based on this expression here. Let's unpack that expression. The geom coord xy function takes a given geom, which could be a line or whatever, and for whatever number coordinate, and here the 0th coordinate is the first coordinate, it generates an xy vector. Geom make point takes an xy vector and creates a point object from that. So what we're doing here is we're taking the first coordinate of the line object, we're creating a vector for that, xy vector for that, and then we're creating a point from that vector. Click Add, and then click OK to update the table. And you can see we've added this new computed field called Geom Begin. That's also a geometry field. And here what it's done is it's taken the first coordinate of this line and it's made a point out of it. And then it's taken the first coordinate of this point and made a point out of that as well. There's only one coordinate and a point, but still it can create a point object from that as well. We're only going to, and what's cool about this is because this is a computed field, if we change the line in any way, let's say we move the line or we reshape the line or something like that, this point, the initial point of that line, will automatically move in accordance with any changes that we make. So if we create the label from here, the label will automatically move at the line whenever we move that line. And let's put a text field here as well. I'm going to Control C, Control V. And since we no longer need this point object, I'm going to Control C on that to select it, and then I'll choose Delete. Delete selected records? Yeah. Okay, so we're now going to generate everything from this first row right here, and let's look at what's going on. In the map, the label has moved because the label is now generated from whatever geom it can find, which in this case is there's only one here. It's for the line objects. That's the one that it's using because it was told to use this geom, and it uses the same text there. Let us now create a drawing that uses this second geom, and the way we're going to do that is we're going to right click on the north table here and choose Create New Drawing, and we'll call that North Arrow Begin. That's a drawing which is the beginning point in the north arrow, and instead of using the geom field, we use the Geom Begin field. That too is in pseudomercator. So we'll click Create Drawing, and there. Now if we open this North Arrow Begin drawing that we just created, we can see it has just one point in it, because what it's doing is it's taking this field here, the Geom Begin field, taking whatever's in that, which is a point object, and it's creating a point from it. Okay, so let's now adjust this N label so that the N label takes its takes its guidance not from the north arrow drawing that it originally did, but from this north arrow begin drawing. To do that, we right click on the label, we choose properties, and we edit this. Instead of north arrow, it uses north arrow begin as the drawing field. Click OK and click view, refresh, and the label now takes its geometry value from this field using this north arrow begin drawing as a guide, and so it puts the label down there at the bottom. Now the cool thing is this whole construction now is based on a single record, because we only have one record in that table. So if we move this line anywhere, all this stuff is going to move with it automatically. We are now in position to actually put this stuff to use, and we're going to use it in this new map that we've created called New Zealand. And New Zealand has a drawing of New Zealand in it called NZ, and we're doing this in honor of Tim Bijant, who lives in New Zealand, and he's the extraordinary manifold user, SQL expert, and cartographer who first recommended the use of the Hotine oblique Mercator projection to do rotated views on the manifold user form. And that's just it's a great way of doing it. It's kind of obvious because that's the way cartographers have been doing this for many years. And Martin Hotine himself created the Hotine oblique projection for, among other reasons, to be able to show such rotated views. So let's proceed onwards. Here what we're going to do is we're going to drag and drop the north arrow drawing into that, and drag and drop the north label into that. Now we don't see any of this here because so far there's only one line and label, and that's way up here by Italy, and it's not down here in New Zealand. So let's add a line to the north arrow drawing, and we're going to click here, create line. I'm going to click on here, and just approximately here somewhere up north, we'll click there. And for the text, we also want the text to be N, because we want the label to be N for north. And here in the coordinates, I deliberately drew this a little bit skewed so I can demonstrate how we can double click on that, click Control A, Control C, then double click here and click Control V to copy this upper coordinate down here, and you can see how that moved, that nudged this second coordinate there. So it's a perfectly straight up and down line, which means it's a good north arrow for north up display. Click Add Record, and like magic, we have the north arrow. We now have two north arrows in this north arrow drawing, one up by Italy and one down here by New Zealand. Let's put the cursor back into default mode. So in this north arrow table, we don't need that first one up by Italy anymore, so I'm just going to highlight that and click Edit Delete, which now leaves just one line object in there, and that's the one that we're using here in New Zealand as a north arrow. Okay, so far so good. Let's rotate this baby right here. And to do that, I'm going to save the current location into this location component here. Why am I doing that? Because location components, when you double click them to open them, show what the center of that location is in the scale. And I'm doing that so that I can use this as basically like a cheat sheet, because I can never remember, from looking down here in New Zealand what exactly is. You can see the coordinate readout here, what's the center of this display. But I can just look at it up here to use it to guide. And what we're now going to do is we're going to change the projection of this to rotate it, to use the Hotine rotated projection. Just to be on the safe side, I'm going to take New Zealand, copy it, and I'm going to paste it as a new map. And now I'm going to open this up as a new map. I'll rename this, let's call this rotated. Rotated. Great, let's open that up. And you can make as many maps as you like, because maps actually don't store any data. What the map is just a pointer, and so it's taking all its data from this New Zealand drawing and such, and so you could have 1,000 maps and not add at all to the size of the manifold project. Okay, anyway, we're here in New Zealand rotated. Let's actually, I can make this a little bit smaller and kind of move it out of the way down here. Okay, back here in New Zealand rotated, and here in the component pane, let's change the coordinate reference system of this. We'll change the projection of it by clicking on this, choose Edit Coordinate System, and we're going to name that baby, let's call this New Zealand rotated. I like naming these things so that when I go back and look at them, it sort of reminds me of what I did. And we're going to use the Hotine oblique Mercator projection. The center latitude is going to be minus 41.152, and I'm just reading it off of the cheat sheet that I had there in location. the center longitude is 172.516, and the centerline azimuth is going to be 0, and for the rectified grid is the rotation angle. We want to rotate this 90 degrees counterclockwise. So I'm going to do minus 90 for minus 90 going this way, plus 90 would go that way. So that looks all pretty good. So let's click OK. And like magic, the thing is rotated. We don't need this anymore, so we'll close that. And there's our rotated view of New Zealand. And now let's look at the magic of having the north arrow and the label being all the same object. I can Control-Alt, Shift-Alt-click this to select it for editing, and move this about, move that down here, and move that up there, and I can just drag and drop this to any location that I want. Click Update Record, and it's moved there. Back here in the coordinates pane, let's select this again for moving. Let's move it down here. Click Update Record, and there it is there. So we've now seen how we can create this north arrow, and now that we have this template of all this kind of machinery going here, what we can do is if we just take these 4 components, we can copy these and paste these into different maps. So if we wanted to create a map of some other location in the world, we just copy these and paste it into the map of that different location, and then we'd create a line, and we'd have the same styled north arrow, because the actual styling of the north arrow itself is in the properties here. If we look at all the styles, what that looks like, we can see that it's all this stuff. And instead of styling the north arrow using the style pane here and getting into all this inside baseball for the beginning and end and what all these other different settings all are, that can get very intricate as when you create all these different projects. And it's much better if you come up with a style that after a bunch of tinker time you decide, hey, I like that style, I want to keep reusing it. All you need to do now, like I say, is copy these 4 components, paste them into the project that you're using, and you're going to get that style again. Manifold allows you to create north arrows like this using whatever you want in the style collection, which means basically an infinite amount. If you don't like this particular style of north arrow, well, you can use a different style. I'm sure that in the next month or two, Manifold will allow you to drag and drop pre-built north arrows without having to go through this infrastructure, so that the north arrow is always permanently here in some corner of the map. That sort of thing is convenient. But until Manifold does that, and at the rate of evolution for Manifold right now, at whatever it's a couple hundred features every few weeks, that's going to happen right quick. But in the meantime, you can do all this the way we've just done it. And what we've shown here is the power of SQL. We've shown how you can use SQL to create computed values, computed fields that automatically create new geometries, how you can automatically combine features using those new geometries, how those new geometries will automatically be dealt with correctly. Just for the heck of it, I don't know if I have a Bing Map satellite. Well, I do. Let's click a satellite layer into here. Let's drag and drop that in to the map. The nice thing about the Hoteen projection is that it actually will do everything. Bing isn't particularly high resolution in New Zealand, so you see what you get there. But okay, let's get rid of that. Delete from map. But the Hoteen projection is extremely fast. You can reproject gigabytes of data pretty much in real time and pan and zoom however you like. I want to emphasize that we're doing all this using the free Manifold Viewer. You can download that for free from the Manifold website. You don't have to register. You don't have to give it your email address. There's absolutely no advertising. It doesn't ask for money. There's no prompts. There's no attempt to upsell. It doesn't even ask for donations. And it doesn't time out. You can use it for however long you like for any lawful purpose, commercial use, nonprofit use, whatever you like. The Manifold Viewer is read-only. You can still do cool things like, for example, click Alt Print Screen on this to do a screen capture. You can still undock different windows and move them about to make it as large as you like. And so when you Alt Print Screen from those, you can then paste the result of that from the clipboard, that image from the clipboard, into your favorite graphics editor like Photoshop or GIMP or whatever you want, and use that to create a absolutely spectacular, just jaw-dropping, beautiful displays for use on websites or for publications or however you like to use them. I hope you've enjoyed this video. It's a little bit more advanced than the usual ones. Thanks for watching, and goodbye from Manifold Land. Well, that was fun. If you want to see more, visit us at www.manifold.net. As always, Manifold delivers the world's most advanced, highest quality spatial products for GIS and DBMS at a low price that you can afford. Once again, that's manifold.net. See you soon.